Boom! What's going on, everyone? This is Steve Larson, and to those of you who think I yell too much, welcome to Sales Funnel Radio! Oh, dude! Yeah!
You can't handle the truth.
Boom, 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 boom.
Loud noises!
Excuse me, would you please sit down? Please go ahead.
Oh! I've spent the last 4 years learning from the most brilliant marketers today. And now I've left my 9-to-5 to take the plunge and build my $1 million business. The real question is, how will I do it without VC funding or debt, completely from scratch? This podcast is here to give you the answer. Join me and follow along as I learn, apply, and share marketing strategies to grow my online business, using only today's best internet sales funnels. My name is Steve Larson, and welcome to Sales Funnel Radio. Hey, I'm really excited for this episode. I have wanted to get this individual on here for quite some time, and Alex Charfen has been one of the reasons why my stuff has blown up so much. I have learned that I need to listen to less people, right? I'm very, very picky on those that I choose to dive deeply with, and so for marketing and sales, right, I've really dove in deep with Russell, obviously, and you all know that. For systems and business systems, I've dived in very deeply with Alex Charfen. He's the other coach that I pay a lot to and listen to as well, and I have other various ones that are very carefully selected, and I don't listen to anybody else, right? I'm very, very careful on the content that I consume so that I can spend most of my time just moving rather than more information, which I don't think we all need more of. So anyway, I'm excited for you guys to understand more of why Alex Charfen for me has been so key. So I asked him to come on the show and to teach a little bit more about the systems that all businesses need, regardless of whatever you're in. A lot of these are the new systems that a brand new entrepreneur needs whenever they finally get that revenue coming in. And then there's also, though, the same kind of systems that he goes and he creates for those who have an existing business and are ready to scale. And he talks about that in this interview. How do you know when you're ready to scale? How do you know if you should be scaling and you're not, right? He's going to go through some of those things with you guys today. And this is so awesome. If you guys did like this interview, please reach out to him. He did not need to do this. And say thank you. At the very end, we do have a special little thing for you. And so we're excited. Let's cut over to the interview and go say thanks to him if you guys got things from this. Boom! What's going on, everyone? This is Steve Larson. Welcome back to Sales Funnel Radio. We're really excited to have you guys here. I'm with one of my good friends. He's become an amazing friend. Definitely been a mentor, I would call and consider him a brother as well. I want to introduce everybody to Alex Charfen here. And before I really bring him on, I just want y'all to understand, Alex Charfen was one of the guys for me that helped me understand why I am who I am, and that's okay. And help me lean into that. I'll talk to you a lot about leaning into your obstacles, leaning into those things that have been kind of crappy in your life. They end up becoming your superpower. However, it truly was, y'all know that my story going to Funnel Hacking Live, that first one, Alex Charfen is one of the first speakers. And I took so many notes. I ran back home. I showed my wife and she goes, that's why you act the way you do? And I was like, yes, it's because of this guy. It had a crazy, deep, grovelly voice, and I loved it. And he was the man. And I'm so excited to bring him on the show here. Guys, please welcome Alex Charfen. How you doing, man?
Steven, it's so good to be here with you, man. Thank you. And I echo your sentiments completely, and I consider you a brother as well, man.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, it was even like 2 weeks ago, we were chatting about your material and going on through it. She goes, oh, yeah, I have to remember this is how your brain kind of works. And I was like, really naturally, yeah, like you should really know that, you know? So we'll go back through and I don't know. I feel like, you know, I've got that capless pig shirt that I wear all the time, but I really want one that just says like, Charfen will explain or something. You know what I mean? Like that should be my next shirt because like so much of what I do in this world just is not explainable without you. So.
Yeah, it's unique, you know, Stephen. I think when you characterize it that way, what I hear is so much of what you do is different than what anybody in the world would ever expect. And that's what I've found from the day I met you. I'm like, I think I walked up to you and said something like, hey man, I think we should talk. You're a really unique entrepreneur and I don't think you understand just how unique.
I remember when you said that. Yeah, I felt like, in the Matrix when he's talking to that lady, the spoonman, like I felt like I was talking to her, and I was like, what does he see in me? What are you looking at? Please dissect me. So anyway, well, I really am pumped for you to be here though, and just massive, incredible love. Your name, it's not just a noun. You have to understand it is a verb, and clearly. People will be like, how did you do that? I just Charfenized it, baby. I say Charfenation all the time. I was hanging out with the other Charfenites. I'm going over the Charfenation. How'd you do that? Anyways, you're very much a verb in my vocabulary around here and with my family. So it's really quite an honor to have you on. Really is.
Thank you, Stephen. It's an honor to be here, man. This is awesome.
This is really cool. Well, hey, I wanted to start right out and I wanted to ask, and my audience has heard a lot about you. I've talked about you a lot. A lot of people because so much of what I learned, I was going through some of my old notes from even like 2 years ago, just recently, going through one of your events. And I was like, gosh, like, you're so right. This is so cool. So anyways, and watching how much it really has created additional leverage for what I'm trying to do. It works. It's real. And I want everyone to listen to this and listen to what Alex has to say here and understand that this is how I've been doing what I am doing. And I learned the marketing and a lot of sales from Russell, but how to have a life and systemize it and make my business an asset from Charfen, from Alex Charfen here. So could you just tell us how you kind of got into this? Because I know you weren't always, I call it entrepreneurial optimization. It's really what you do. It's not just the systems, but like I'm wearing glasses now. I'm drinking more water than I ever have in my life. I'm doing all sorts of stuff I never would do because of you. How did you get into this?
Stephen, I think if the question is, how did I get into an entrepreneur? I didn't find entrepreneurship. It found me. This was really the only thing I ever felt comfortable doing in my life. Ever since I was a little kid, I was always the kid that was different than everybody else, crazy socially awkward. Like what you see today is not, I don't try to be socially awkward. It's just natural, and I was always different than the other kids. I didn't really get along. And I had trouble in school. All the systems in the world told me I was broken. And then when I was 8 years old, my family went through kind of a financial downturn. My father lost a company. He didn't go bankrupt. He went really close. And he ended up, to make money for the family, we were selling stuff in a swap meet on the weekends. And I remember going to the swap meet for the first time and standing behind a folding card table. And a woman walked up and I sold her a pen that had an LCD clock in it. Like that was big time for 1981 or whatever, or 78 or 79 or whatever it was. Yeah. And she bought it. And Stephen, I can remember sitting, thinking at that moment, holy crap, I'm good at this. This is something I'm not terrible at. Because up until that point, I really hadn't found anything where it was like, hey, that was good. It was always like, almost got it, kid. Yeah, you don't suck as bad as you did yesterday, I was the kid who consistently got most improved all the time. Because it's like the award you give to the kid who sucked the worst. Yeah. And when that woman walked up, it was like, hey, this is something I can do over and over again. And the more that I worked with my dad, the more that I experienced business, I loved it because, the world is so random. When you get into the world of business, there's rules, there's an outcome. People are in it together. There's, that you actually have to work together to accomplish and to achieve. And if everybody cares about it, it'll happen. And so this is where I feel comfortable. And, it's funny, when I was a kid, I used to create businesses and create business plans and write out time cards and all this other stuff. And I thought that was the weirdest thing as an adult. I would reflect back and think man, I was such a weird kid. That's exactly what my daughters do. My daughter this morning was at the kitchen table for 3 hours writing out a schematic for a water park she wants to build one day. And wow. That's just, it is, you are who you are. And I think from the very beginning, this is who I've been.
That's amazing. And when did you decide to make a business around this and go actually help other entrepreneurs like myself who need these systems?
Well, the business that I have today, we started. So let me give you a little brief history. Yeah. So in my 20s, I was a consultant, and I get, a lot of people ask about that. I did some consulting at a very high level, in the Fortune 500 level, and I built a very large business that almost killed me. And so I can tell the story really good. I can give you all the highlights and make it sound great. $250 million company. I worked with Fuji and TDK and Memorex and Logitech and all, international business. I can tell you the other side of that coin. I had a $250 million company. I made less than $2 million a year. My margins were razor thin. I had a bleeding ulcer, and I was probably over 300 pounds.
Wow.
And so when I got out of that business, I wanted to do something completely different. So in my early 30s, I got into real estate. We were taken out by the real estate market in 2007. Katie and I introduced our first information product, and that's how we got into this world. We created a product called the Certified Distressed Property Expert designation. In 2007, we were bankrupt. We introduced it at the end of the year. In 2008, we did like $500,000 in sales. The next year we did 7 million. The next year we did 10. Wow. And over the course of the life of that product, we did about 70. And we went from bankruptcy to liquid millionaires in a year. And then in 2013, the US Treasury came to our office and did a broadcast with us where they said that according to their research, our company had pulled forward the foreclosure crisis 5 to 7 years. So it was intense, really intense. And what happened was right around 2011, a lot of our clients who were buying our product wanted help growing their business. And so I took all of the stuff that I used to use as a consultant and the systems and structure Katie and I used to run our business, and we started training it. And so since 2011, we've been training it like in classes and courses. And in 2017, we started the products that we have today. So now we have an entry-level coaching program called Billionaire Code Accelerator. It's for people who are doing over 300K a year. And then we have a high-level coaching program called the Billionaire Code Grow and Scale. And that's for people who are doing over 3 million a year.
That's awesome. That's
so
cool.
It is the most fun I've ever had, Stephen. It's just... So it's like every day I wake up and here's what I get to do. I get to play in this playground with game-changing entrepreneurs that are starting businesses that are doing things that are just unreal. And our systems, our structures are kind of the backbone for how they're doing things. So on a daily basis, me and everyone on my team gets to wake up knowing that we are helping the game changers change the world. And we recruit for people who want to do that. We recruit for people who are passionate about it because everyone on my team feels like their life's mission is being fulfilled through being in this business right now. It's the greatest thing I've ever done.
That's incredible. And I can tell everyone else who's like listening or watching this now, like it's exactly as he says it. I remember the first time I ever went to, I think I've been to 3 of your events now, and they have just been life-changing. I go through and it gives structure to the idea, but then also how I behave against the idea. So I can actually go in and breathe. I can live. I can, I watched my dad go create this awesome company when I was a young boy. And, but it took him too. Right. And but everyone does that. It's supernatural. So you to go in and remove the entrepreneur, create systems around it. And now there's processes and procedures and people that they actually go in and push forward their vision even further. It's this incredibly, I know it's not magical, but it feels magical to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait. I've actually had a tab open with your course open for like the last month, and I'll just dive into another video and I'm like, oh my gosh, back to the drawing board. That was so good. And I'll go back to it again and again and again. It's just always up. Everybody who's listening to me, it's always up. And I'm going in, and that's really what's teaching me how to run it like a company rather than me be the company. And I've loved that. It's just been so powerful. I wanted to ask you a kind of a key question here. And it's a question that I actually get asked a lot. Because people come through my programs, I'll help them make money. They'll go and make a lot of cash, and it's awesome. But then after that, like, what do? You keep those sales coming in. What are the first systems that you find that new entrepreneurs with a sizable amount of cash should actually go create first? What are those first few moves?
I think I definitely want to share a couple systems, Stephen, but first I want to just share a thought process.
Okay.
And I think, and this is a tough thought process for most entrepreneurs to take on. And it's interesting because I've watched you go through this shift too, right? Because at the beginning, I just want everyone to know, when I met Stephen Larson, he was ready to take on the entire world solo, like all alone, right? Yeah. And here's the thought process. Like after you start making money, here's the next thing to ask yourself is, how do I sustain this? How do I make it real? How do I make it last a long time? How do I make it so that I'm not the only driver here? Mm-hmm. And the thought process has to be, when you get to the point where the momentum you're creating on your own isn't enough, and believe me, we all get there. Yeah. Like, I know that if you're watching me, watching Stephen, you're one of those entrepreneurs, and in the back of your mind, you have this crazy voice that has always told you, you're meant for more. You're going to do more. You're going to change the world. You're going to make a massive impact. And if you've always felt that, then there's a shift you have to make in your thinking, because here's the issue for people like us. I call it the entrepreneur's dilemma. For people like us, we need far more help than the average person to reach our full destination. But any request for help or support that we have to make leaves us feeling vulnerable and exposed. Stephen, you with me?
Yes, 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 yes. 100%.
And so here's the shift.
Yep.
What we have to realize is that if we're going to change the world, that is a group activity. And leadership's a contact sport. And so we have to wake up to the fact that when we start to build a team and create a structure and pour into the people around us, invest in those people, make them important, build relationships with them, we will build the company that we have always wanted. That's the only way it's ever been done. The myth of the solopreneur who's changed the world is a myth. It's a joke. It's one of the most damaging things that's out there in the entrepreneurial world today, because the fact is, show me anyone that looks like they changed the world on their own, and I will show you a massive team behind them.
So true. There's this idea that gets pushed around now. And it's like, I'm going to go and be this person that does all this. I'm the gift to the world. And it's like, okay, but you can't do that on your own. And even in the last 6 months, I have begun to experience and feel burnout. And it's been freaky. I've never in my life experienced that. And it's been hard. And the only other way I've been able to create leverage is by listening to what you say and create those teams around.
Yeah. Well, and Stephen, I mean, that's the thing. Here's the deal. I want everybody to understand this. If you're an entrepreneur, you have a job, and that job is to stay out of burnout. You have a job to lower pressure and noise in your life, to increase the protection and support that you have around you. Because if you don't work with that equation constantly, lower the noise and increase the support, lower the noise, increase the support, here's what ends up happening. You are in an equation that doesn't work. And it's not like anyone can come and argue against me here, because this is like gravity. This is like, the facts of life. This is like, taxes we're all going to pay them. Like, there's no way to argue against this. You're going to lose. And so in that situation as an entrepreneur, you have to be really cautious about doing too much yourself and about loading yourself up, because here's our instinct. You have this, I have this, we all have it. If there's something to be done, the first thought we have is, how do I just get it done without telling anybody else, right? Oh yeah. It's like, I'm going to conquer.
Bring it, baby.
Right? Yeah. And we forget that humans are tribal animals, man. We are all terrible at most things. Let's get real. Yeah. If you're good at a lot of things, then you have a liability, because you're not going to be able to choose what you shouldn't do. I'm very fortunate. I suck at most everything. And that's like an honest reality. Like, anyone on my team will tell you, like, oh man, don't let Alex fill out a form, use the calendar, send emails. Like, we keep them out of all of our systems. Seriously, my team actually knows when I have a password for a system, and then they monitor me using it, because I'm so bad at that stuff. But on that same token, I know what I'm good at. I'm good at vision. I'm good at where we're going to go. I'm good at putting the frameworks together. I'm good at assembling a team. And by doing those things, we can grow a massive organization and have a massive impact. Yeah. But so for every entrepreneur, the key here is figuring out what you're good at and doing that to the exception of everything else. And it's the hardest thing you'll ever do as an entrepreneur. Here's why. The second you start doing that, you feel like you're being egotistical. You feel like you're being self-serving. You feel, and here's the fact. When you drive your business to get easier for you, it will grow like crazy. But driving your business to get easier for you will feel like you're doing the wrong thing. It happens all the time. There's a discussion right now in our Facebook group of one of the CEOs in our group who made a post, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said something like, as I offload and reduce discomfort and get a team around me, I'm feeling less and less significant. Am I doing this right? Yeah. And my answer was, yes, you're absolutely doing this right. That's exactly how it's going to feel, because we need to attach significance to the total contribution, not to your day-to-day activities.
That's powerful. It's funny. I was, as you're, it reminds me of I watched, when I first got to Clickfunnels, it was just he and I. There wasn't like a copywriter, a videographer. There wasn't like, it was just he and I. I mean, so we did every single role in getting this funnels out, to the exception of just a few where he'd go, oh, someone's really good at X, Y, and Z. And then by the time
probably design or something.
What's that?
Probably design, but everything else was you guys.
Yeah. Right. And like, I knew enough InDesign and Photoshop. I was the one doing it most of the time and doing first copy rounds, and it was nuts. And so by the time I left, it was funny because he had started implementing these types of things. And I remember watching him during these funnel launches, just laying on the floor, bored out of his mind. Like, I've never seen him like that in my life. And he was like almost going to a state of depression. He's like, I'm unneeded in my own thing now. Oh, no one needs me anymore. It's like, it's a funny thing to realize, like, we're just the orchestrators. We don't play all the instruments.
We shouldn't. And so, back to your question about what systems should an entrepreneur start looking at?
Yeah.
Stephen, I'm going to talk high level.
Yeah.
And I want to share, like you and I are really close friends, and I want to share the most critical content we have for entrepreneurs with your group.
I appreciate
and
that.
For us, and this is what we normally share internally. Once somebody joins our program, we share the 5 things that keep companies from scaling. Because reality is there's really 5 things that keep companies that should scale from scaling. And here's what I mean, companies that should scale. If you go talk to most consultants, venture capitalists, investment bankers, accountants, lawyers, whatever, they'll give you this laundry list of why companies don't scale. They didn't have enough money. They didn't have the right people. They didn't do, all of these things.
Yeah.
The reality is if you look at most companies that should scale, there's a clear 5 reasons why they don't. So let me share them with you, but let me give you this caveat. Here's what I mean by should scale. If you've got a market, if you're capable of selling, if you could do more and you're leaving money on the table, you should be scaling.
Right.
If those things aren't there for you right now, go resolve that and then start scaling. So far too many people try and scale before they actually have all the steps in place. Then you just build infrastructure that does nothing. Yeah. So let me tell you what the 5 things are. So number 1, first and foremost, absolutely most crucial, is most businesses don't have any type of strategic plan. So as a result, there's no go forward strategy. And here's what happens in a business when you don't have a go forward strategy. If you don't know where you're going, neither does your team. Neither does anybody around you. And so you will, by virtue of math, become the biggest bottleneck in the company. Here's why. If there's no forward plan where all of us can point at it and go get it and help you chase it down, every time we want to know what to do, we have to ask you. And we have to go to you. And it's a death of 1,000 paper cuts. And you're literally in a place where you're telling people what to do, checking that it got done, and telling them what to do again. And if you've ever been in that situation as an entrepreneur, you know that somebody only has to ask you twice before you're ready to flip out and lose it. Am I right, Stephen?
Yeah, usually once.
Once, right. But by the second time, you're like, are you kidding me? And so the way we get past that is we create a clear strategic plan. We share it with our entire team. And if the team knows where they're going, here's what happens. I want you to understand something about the people coming to work for you. If you're in a small business, you're hiring entrepreneurs. Yeah. And I know that there's this saying in the market, you're either an entrepreneur or you work for one. I call complete and total BS. Don't even bring that crap around me. Every person on my team is an incredibly talented, hyper-motivated, world-changing entrepreneur. They just choose to be part of a team. Yeah. And so you're going to hire entrepreneurs. And the way you keep entrepreneurs absolutely and totally focused and excited is you show them what they're hunting. You give them the kill. You say, here's our plan. This is what we're doing. This is how you win. And if you hire the right people, they will walk over hot glass to get to that destination for you. Yeah. But if they don't know where it is, you're going to demotivate them and completely deleverage them. So number 1, you have to have a strategic plan. In my experience, less than 1% of businesses do. Also, less than 1% of businesses ever hit $100 million. In fact, only 3% ever hit 1 million. So when you look at it's not 1% of businesses hit 100 million, 0.01% of businesses ever hit 100 million. And the reason is most businesses don't know where they're going. That's one. And Stephen, by you having the tools to build a strategic plan in your business, hasn't it changed how you approach things?
Oh gosh. You guys remember when I tell you those stories of, I left my job, I created $200,000 in revenue really quick, but there were no systems. I was the support guy, fulfillment guy, sales guy. Like I did every role, and I voluntarily, very painfully had to turn down revenue to go build these structures. And I want y'all to know it was Alex Charfen's stuff that helped me go in and actually set those systems in place. And so please understand my affinity for this man and what he does, everybody, as I say this, because you all know, about halfway through the year, I was only at $300,000 or $400,000. Which is pretty good still, but that last huge sprint came in because of the things that Alex Charfen and his team were teaching me, and all those planning things that I use, and all the things that I've just lightly mentioned. They've all come from Alex Charfen, and it's what's helped me actually scale me.
That's awesome, Stephen. Man, that makes me so proud.
That's so cool.
There's only one Stephen Larsen in the world, and I told you that the first day I met you. I'm like, dude, you are completely and totally unique. And I think I can help you build the company you really want. Yeah. And for us to be sitting here and for you to say that is I I got chills, Stephen. That's so awesome. Thank you.
Oh man, I'm so jazzed about what we do, but it's because of what you teach. I'm like, I can do it instead of I can do it, but like lose my liver, or like die
Stephen,
somehow.
Here's why I was so excited about helping you specifically. And I want to qualify this so that your entire audience understands why. I'm a weird guy at events. Like I don't talk to a lot of people. I actually kind of keep to myself. I watch, I observe, and then I hunt. I hunt unique, crazy, off the charts entrepreneurs who I know are going to change the world. And the first time I ever saw Stephen at an event, I did not leave the event until I'd cornered him and told him what I needed to tell him, because I knew you were going to be exactly that type of person. And here's why it's so important to me, Stephen, is because I could tell the first time I saw you, you're going to have a massive effect on the world. But here's what I know about entrepreneurs. You're going to have the biggest effect on the people closest to you, the people who are most proximal, your team. And when I see an entrepreneur like you, Stephen, I'm like, man, if that guy builds a team, he's going to change hundreds of lives internally in his company. They're going to change millions of lives externally. And I know those hundreds of people will build your legacy. And when I see somebody like you, I'm like, man, that is the path. Let me show you how to do this. And the fact that it's working, it's like, it makes me so excited every day. This is why I get up out of bed every morning and do what I do.
Oh, it's so fun, man. Feelings mutual. You walked up, it was from that fat event that you were at. And you walked up and said, there's a huge company in you, and I don't think you know it, and I'm going to help you pull it out of you. And I remember when you said that, I was like, I was so scared. I was like, there's no way this is real. I know who you are. Are you kidding me? And it freaked me out. And I had to own my own vision for a while. Like, it actually took me a while to practice that. And anyway, so much has gone on in mental clarity and development from what you've taught, not just these systems and things around. It's really cool.
So let's give the second one, Steve.
Sorry.
So first, you have a strategic plan. Oh, don't apologize. Shit, I love this part. So first, you have a strategic plan. Second, the thing that you need to have is a system to communicate that plan. Let me tell you something about us as entrepreneurs. We think we're good communicators. We're lying to ourselves. The fact is, we are haphazard and emotional, and we're pumped one second and we're not the next, and we're all over the place. And here's what happens. When we have a team that has to deal with a personality like ours, and there's not a system for communication, it's random and haphazard and overwhelming, and it comes from all angles, and they're waiting for word from on high. Here's the fact is, if you're the entrepreneur in charge, you're the most important person in the building all the time. You're the most important person on the team, in the tribe, in the group, and they're all waiting to see what you say. And if they're waiting for days and nothing's happened, they start thinking, is something wrong? Did something go bad? Like, did we do something wrong? If you have a system where, as an example, my team knows every Monday at 4 o'clock, we're all going to be on a weekly meeting together. They also know every day at 9:27 a.m., we're going to be on a daily huddle, and I'll be there. They know that once a month, we're going to have a meeting where we show our strategic plan. They know once a month, we're going to have a meeting where they all get the results. So they all know when they're going to communicate with me and how. And so as a result, from the first day you're on our team, there's a system that you hear from me, not just me pumping stuff out there haphazardly. And so as a result, my team knows they're going to hear from me. They trust it. And here's what happens. I set the expectations. I meet the expectations. We create trust. So I create trust with my team every time I do that. And here's the fact. If your team trusts you, you get way more out of them. If your team trusts you, they will do more for you. And if your team trusts you, you'll get discretionary effort, which means when they're driving, when they're showering, when they're doing something else, they're going to be thinking about your business. Why? Because it gives them momentum. So if you have a strategic plan and a system to communicate it, you're ahead of 99% of companies out there. So, and Stephen, same thing for you, right? With the system, the structure, like we all fight structure, but once you put it in place, isn't it incredible?
Oh, it's amazing. Stuff's getting done right now that we set in place once. And then I'll be like, oh, podcast episode just launched. Like, oh, what day is it? Oh, that's sweet. Everyone just put it out. All right, cool.
Right. I remember when I started getting messages like, hey, I love the new podcast. And I'm like, oh, we put a podcast out? Nice.
I didn't do that. What are you talking about?
So you have a strategic plan, then a system to communicate. Here's the third one. Now, this is big, really big. And most business owners just like, they don't look at this ever. And it's the biggest struggle is, or one of the biggest struggles is, you have to have a system to consistently document the right processes in your business. And by documentation, I mean having a flow chart, having a process document, having a checklist, having something that shows you how the important things in your business are done over and over again. You know, if you, and this is an example that like I was going to say, if you walk into a McDonald's and you look above the fry cooker, there is a process to cook fries above that fry cooker. If you look at anything that happens in that McDonald's, there's a process for literally every single thing, including unlocking the door, turning off the alarm, sweeping the floor. That's why there's a consistent experience at McDonald's. I'm not saying it's a good experience. I'm saying it's consistent.
Sure.
Now, right? Yeah. And so in most businesses, in most entrepreneurial businesses, there's no process. In fact, it's even scarier than that. The process lives either in the owner's head or in individual people's heads. So you lose a person, you lose the company. You lose a person, you lose a big chunk of what you're doing. So you have to have a system in a business to consistently evaluate what processes are in the company, and then on a monthly and weekly basis, document the right ones. And the way that I would suggest you start is you look at your customer experience. Like, what is the customer experience in your company, and what process documentation do you have to back it up to make sure that is completely consistent? If you do that, you're going to beat most people out there. Because again, 99% of entrepreneurial companies have little to nothing documented in any type of process.
They're just shooting in random spots 24/7.
Or they're doing stuff like, here's how we do our customer onboarding. I trained Susie. Susie trained Annie. Annie trained Bob. And now John does it. And you're like, oh, cool. Let's go see what John's doing. Well, John's doing nothing close to what Susie and Bob and everybody else were originally doing. And so you have these degrading processes in your business. And here's what happens. When you look at entrepreneurial businesses, they tend to do this. They go up in revenue, they come back down in revenue. They go up in revenue, they come back down. If you're inside those companies hundreds of times like I have been, here's what I can tell you. Revenue goes up as the process is working, and then when it breaks, it comes back down, period. That's why businesses don't continue to go forward. There's processes breaking in the business, whether it's marketing, sales, delivery, whatever it is, there's a process breaking. When you document them, you make them bulletproof. So in our business, we actually use Lucid chart flowcharts. Okay. We use Sheets in Google Sheets, but then we also use a new product called Process Street, which is a distributed, automated process document system, which is incredible. So we have all of our processes in Process Street, and we have a distributed team around the world, and we have somebody in Ireland who can do their part of the process. As soon as they hit the last button, it transfers to somebody here in the US who can do their part of the process. That's awesome. So documenting your processes and putting them in place, game changing.
Holy cow. Okay, I wrote that down. I'm taking tons of notes so everyone knows. I hope you are as well. And I'm not sharing.
Process.st is the company, and we are so happy with it because, Stephen, I want everyone to know, Katie and I, we've had 5 businesses get over $10 million a year. And in all 5 of them, we ran them with paper checklists. This is the first time we have automated checklists in Process Street. The last information products business we literally had 3-ring binders that we would carry around the office and check off stuff, because having a 3-ring binder with a process was so much better than having somebody trying to do it from memory. Now with Process Street, we can distribute that 3-ring binder, and I can get reporting on who's doing what.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've actually seen the 3-ring binder, and I thought, holy crap, that really is how he's doing it. Because you would teach it, and then I watched you actually do it, because you would record your stand-up meeting calls in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm not doing that. Interesting. Then I go back and take notes and start it. Yeah.
And then implement. Well, and here's this phrase in the entrepreneurial world. Oh, I kind of get a little triggered.
Let it out, baby.
The thing that people say from stage. Here's what I want all of you to know. All you have to do is stop working in your business and start working on your business. And I'm always like, oh, good. Thanks for solving it all for us, dude. That was awesome. You just solved all my problems with that really cliche BS thing that everybody tells entrepreneurs. Because my instant thought when I was in my 20s was like, well, first my instant thought was like, how do I get on stage and punch that guy in the face? And then my second thought was like, what a load of crap. If I don't work in the business, nobody's answering the phone, sucker. Like, what's going on here? I don't know how to make that change. And so the way you make that change is working on the business means documenting processes, making it clear, making it repeatable, making it so that it's real. And so that you have a strategic plan that everyone understands, a communication system everyone knows is going to happen, a system for documenting processes so everyone can repeat what's going on with your clients. And then the next step, and this is big, is a consistent system for identifying, documenting, and then prioritizing the right project in the business.
This changed my life.
Well, and this is huge. Well, Stephen, you know how game changing this is, because here's the problem in most businesses. Projects are selected emotionally, period. Like I can't tell you that they're done any other way. They're emotional. You go to an event and somebody says, I'm doing this thing. And then the next day you're doing that thing. Or, you watch a podcast or you listen to a podcast or you hear a webinar and the person says, hey, I added this thing to my business. And the next day you're trying to do that thing. And in our business, if I have a really great idea that I want to implement today, like if I'm like, man, this is really high sense of urgency, we should get this implemented, it'll probably be somewhere around 45 days. And I'm totally okay with that. That's the timing it should be in my business. Now, if there's an emergency, we're going to fix it that day. But if I'm like, hey, I see an opportunity here with something, it's probably a 45-day event. Why? I have a team and a structure and a plan, and we have a system that's moving forward. We're already hitting our numbers. Why would I mess with anything? I actually protect what's going on in the business, and I add things gently. I add things carefully. I make sure my team's into it too, and I make sure we have consensus because like just in the last 60 days, we've gone from 2 million recurring to 2.3 million recurring. Awesome. Why would I mess with what we're doing? And so when somebody's like, hey, Alex, I got this great idea for your business, I'm like, awesome, get in line and we'll put it into our system to see if we want to actually do this. Because, the fact is, if you're getting sold as an entrepreneur on what your next project should be, you're probably in the wrong place.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I really agree with that. And it was your planning system for figuring out which projects. I still do it top of every 3 months. And it has guided everything we do. And while I do follow a few rabbits and I'm practicing that, bringing it back in, we still largely follow, though, the plan as to what the business needs to grow and scale, rather than this impulse of like, shiny object, shiny object. Oh, that looks good. And it's been that discipline. That's the other thing that's always up is my waterfall.
Yeah. Always. I mean, mine's up right now. I could share it right now. And the reason is I always have my strategic plan pulled up in front of me. I'm looking at it every single day. I'm asking myself, is the team doing what we need to do here? How do I support people more? How do I help them do this more? Because when you look at our strategic plan, here's what it's made up of. Our 1-year outcomes, our client-centric mission, which is our Super Bowl, our Hall of Fame, like the long term. But then it also has the 90-day projects we're focusing on right now and what we're doing this month to get there. So that waterfall of long term to 1 year to 90 days to 30 days, I can see it all on one document. And it tells me exactly where I should be supporting the team and what we're getting done. And so here's what happens. I go to an event. If I go to an event, I went to an event a couple weeks ago. I had an idea that was like, oh man, we have to do this. Then I come back to the office, I look at the waterfall and I'm like, what do I want to kill in order to do this thing over here? And you know what the evaluation was? Nothing. I'm not going to take anything off of this. That would be crazy. And there's no way I'm going to go to my team and say, hey guys, in addition to all the other stuff you committed to, here's a hot potato. I just backed down and I waited till the next time we had a planning meeting. And I said, hey, there's this thing I think we should do. We evaluated it and then it went into the system and went into the plan. There is very little, like knee-jerk reaction in our company because we are going so fast in a forward direction that for me to challenge that in any way, it has to be game-changing at a different level. So it rarely even happens.
Yeah, Black Ops, right? Going Black Ops.
Black Ops. No Black Ops, baby. If it's not on the plan, you don't do it, or it's Black Ops. And usually the biggest creators of Black Ops are guys like Steven and I. So my team has an open license to tell me if I'm doing Black Ops. They will actually call me out in a huddle, in a meeting. They'll be like, this sounds like Black Ops. And then we'll make a note. We'll put it in a parking lot and do it later.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the most important things you can do when you have a team, Steven, is you train your team to criticize you and then you congratulate with them when they do.
That's really cool. Then they have license to actually flex their brain instead of feel like
absolutely. I heard a story once about Larry Page, who runs Google. And there was a story of he was in a meeting and he like really strongly stated a point. And one of the team members got emotional about it and started yelling at him. She was like, I think you're wrong. And this is why you're wrong. And this, and Paige was smiling. And afterwards, she asked somebody like, hey, why was he smiling? Because she backed him down. And he actually said, you know what? I think this deserves more investigation. Like, let's do this. And then she walked out and she was like shaking and all adrenaline up. She had just yelled at the CEO of Google, like, what the heck's going to happen to her? And she turned to somebody next to her and she was like, he was smiling. Is that because he's going to come down hard on me? And the person was like, no, he was smiling because you confronted him. He loves it. He wants it. He knows that if people aren't confronting him, he's in a bad place. So I look at it in my team and I'm like, hey, if my team's not challenging me a little bit, then we're just all marching behind a duck. You know, I don't want to have ducklings behind me. I want people who are saying, hey, this might work, this might not work. We might have a better idea. So you give your team license to criticize and license to call you on stuff.
Oh
So,
gosh, I love that.
So here's the fifth one.
Okay.
So we have the strategic plan, communication system, selecting and documenting the right processes, selecting and achieving the right projects. And then this is big. It's finding the right people. And it's not just finding the right people. It's evaluating the company, understanding what the company needs right now, and what can you offload that is going to create the most momentum, not just for you, but for the team, for everything that you're doing together. Like, what is the position that you need to put in place next so that the company moves forward the fastest? And unfortunately, just like everything else I've named, you know, planning, projects, process, all of those, people also become emotional. An entrepreneur wakes up one morning and says, I'm doing too much. I'm going to hire an assistant. Then they have the assistant sit next to them for 3 weeks, and they wonder why this doesn't work out. It's because you had the thought to get help, which, by the way, I congratulate you on, but there was no process there to actually make it work. And so here's the process you need. 1, you evaluate what's going on in the company and understand what the company needs. Then you turn it into a job description. You use it to recruit. Then you do tons of interviewing. You drive it until you have 3 people that you can select from. You hire one of them, and then you do at least a 90-day onboarding, high intensity onboarding. When I'm onboarding an executive team member, I meet with them every day for the first month, 3 times a week for the second month, and 2 times a week for the third month. People tell me, hey man, doesn't that feel like overkill? I'm like, you don't understand what it means to have an executive team. Your job is to build relationships with those people. You want to know how you build relationships? There's one commodity that builds relationships: one, time. That's it. And so when I'm onboarding, when I'm bringing somebody on, whether it's on my executive team or anywhere in the business, somebody is doing that high intensity onboarding with them up close and personal every single day for the first 30 days, making sure we have no drift. And so when you have a system to select the right people, bring them on, and then onboard them the right way, here's what you avoid. And Stephen, this is like, this statistic drives me crazy. In corporate America, I know because I used to be a consultant there. Yeah. In corporate America, they would say things like, well, we just hired so-and-so in that position, so they'll probably be productive in 4 to 6 months.
Ugh.
The first time I heard that, I was like, did he just say 4 to 6 months? Does he mean 4 to 6 days, or does he really mean 4 to 6 months? Because I, like, in my business, even way back then, if I had to wait 4 months for somebody to be productive, I would have, like, they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone. Yeah, there's no way.
And so in our business, we actually have this experience right now. We recently brought on somebody else, or a new person to help us in marketing. And with our onboarding process, he was actually achieving products within the first 5 days of his first week.
That's so
and
cool.
that's how it is. Like, that's how it should be. You want somebody to come in, be effective, and start contributing and creating momentum. Because here's what will happen. As an entrepreneur, if you're wired anything like I am, and I know Stephen is, if you have somebody on your team that starts to feel like they're not carrying their own weight, you won't sleep. You won't sleep. It will rip you apart. Stephen, am I right? Yeah. It will destroy you. And so, so here's the question though. Are they not carrying their own weight because they're lazy, or they don't want to, or they aren't the right person? Or is it because it's not clear?
They have no idea what they're doing. Yeah, I didn't help them.
Right. Because here's the thing. Your team needs 3 things in order to ultimately be effective and to be the type of team you want. And here's what I mean by that. As an entrepreneur, here's what you want. You want a team that like just does stuff and asks permission later. You want a team that achieves and lets you know how things worked out. That's it. I just know this is how entrepreneurs work. You want people who make really good decisions. You want people who move things forward. You want people who don't stand around waiting for stuff. And if you want to have a team that actually moves things forward as an entrepreneur, you got to spend the time with them and let them know what your ethos are. Let them know how you make decisions. That's how you duplicate decision making.
Gosh, I love that. Okay, so strategic plan, system to communicate, system to document processes that can be shared inside the whole biz, documenting projects and the ones you're going to work on.
Yep.
That was so, oh my gosh. And then finding the right people. And I actually personally just went through your onboarding training, and it's so awesome because it goes through it. It's like this, you basically create a runway for them.
Yeah.
Right? And then if they don't land, don't worry, you got parachutes and there's jumbie cords all over the place. And there's like, you're doing everything you can to help them win fast, and lots of small, tiny ones to build that confidence. And I was like, That is brilliant, because that is not the way they're taught anywhere else.
So Steven, check this out, man. We recently fell out of the lucky tree on recruiting, and we hired this guy named Greg Doobie, and he is amazing. He's he's just one of the most exciting guys I've ever worked with, because he's so solid and so centered and just so good at what he does. And Greg is a former nuclear propulsion tech in the Navy. So you know what that is. That's a guy who rides the bomb around in the submarine.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, you have to have advanced degrees in physics, advanced degrees in math. I mean, he's literally a rocket scientist. So he worked in the Navy, then he worked at NASA, then he worked for some of the larger consulting firms out there. I mean, he's done incredible stuff in his career. He is one of the most solid people I've ever worked with. And within about 2 or 3 weeks into our company, in one of our daily huddles, we said, who wants to get caught being, or who got caught being awesome? It's where we call each other out. And he said, I just want to call this company out for being awesome. I've been here for 3 weeks. I've never had an experience like this getting onboarded anywhere. I'm up and running. I'm excited. I feel like I'm really part of the team. I feel like I've worked here forever, and I'm 3 weeks in. And this is somebody who worked at some of the best consulting firms in the world, NASA and the Navy. And our little tiny company has impressed him so much because we did onboarding, because he knew what he was supposed to do. And as a result, Greg, I think we're about 3 months in with him. Yeah. And dude, there's projects that I thought were going to take a year or two that are getting done this week.
That's so cool.
It's crazy.
It's just a completely different way to do it. The one thing I hated in the military, I love the military, but some things that are rough in that is that there's no clear guidelines on how to win ahead of time. Yep. The way you're instructed is by hitting barriers, and then you get punished for it. You're like, just tell me ahead of time, and I wouldn't do it. But all right, let's do more push-ups. Anyway.
Something tells me you did a lot of push-ups. Anyway,
I just want to say thank you so much for being on here. I asked for 30 minutes and you just completely over-delivered. And I just really want to say thank you to you. My audience already knows very well of you. Where can people go to learn more about you, but specifically also get your help inside their business?
So the best place to learn more about us is to go to our podcast. I publish a podcast 4 days a week, which is essentially a one-on-one conversation with an entrepreneur growing a business. And the way that I create each one of those episodes is when a question or issue comes up in our coaching groups, I create an episode around it. We distribute it to the group, but then also we distribute it to anybody who's listening. So you can get the same coaching that I'm giving my high-level clients right on our podcast. It's called Momentum for the Entrepreneurial Personality Type. And you can check it out at momentumpodcast.com. And then if you want to understand more about our products, about our coaching groups, you can go to our website, charfen.com. But better is to just reach out to me or to one of my team members through Facebook. The easiest thing is to just reach out to me. I'll connect you with the right person in our company, and we'll go through a process with you to help you understand if we can help you. We do not, Stephen, we're pretty unique. We don't sell everybody. We actually get on the phone with a lot of people who we sell later, but we won't sell you unless it's time. We know exactly what solutions we provide. And if you have those issues and they link up, then we'll work together. But we go through a personal inventory in order to help you do that. So if anybody's interested in getting on a call with a member of my team, you can also shortcut the entire process by going to billionairecode.com. Answer a few questions, and you can just set up a call link and you'll be on a call with one of my team members. They'll help you qualify, understand where you are. And just so you know, we don't do sales calls. They are all consulting calls. When you get on a call with my team, you won't ever feel like you're being sold. You'll feel like you're being helped.
Which is exactly what I have felt when I started doing that as well. Just so y'all know, it's very serious about that. That's very real. I always feel like I'm being helped by anyone on his team, anyone. And come to find out later, oh, that was the sales guy, you know what I mean? And they're there to go in and actually, they want to change the world, and they're very serious about it. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Check out Billionaire Code. The Momentum podcast is a gold mine. It is one of those gems on the internet that is actually worth all of your time and attention. And thanks so much for being on here, Alex. Really appreciate you and love you. And thank you for being on here.
Stephen, dude, this has been an honor. I hope to be able to get invited back again. And as a Sales Funnel Radio listener, this is really cool. I appreciate you, man.
Hey, awesome episode, right? Hey, once I figured out the simple patterns and formulas that make this game work, I had a new problem. Back when I eventually left my job and launched my personal business, I sold about $200,000 of product in around 3 months-ish. And while I thought I was King Kong, a new problem started. I was the business. There weren't any systems. I was support. I was fulfillment. I was the one in charge of getting the ads around. I was the sales department. I was marketing department. And I knew I wouldn't survive it alone.
Better yet, I knew I'd never seen a rich solopreneur. This game takes a team. Contrast that to now, and my company does tons of stuff that I don't know how to do. What changed? His name is Alex Charfen. Check him out at charfenrocks.com. So I usually don't bring tons of people on Sales Funnel Radio. You should know that his programs combined with my marketing skills are why my business is killing it in revenue today and not killing me personally. Alex Charfen's programs and training have been life-changing for me and my family and taught me who I really am and what I'm meant to be. So when you're ready to build an actual business, an actual asset, and not just make this another job, when you're ready to keep the role of entrepreneur but learn the role of CEO, go get started with Alex Charfen at charfenrocks.com. That's CHARFEN rocks.com.